All right, folks, the House voted this morning 232 to 196 to pass the new procedural rules for their impeachment investigation of Donald Trump. 2 Democrats joined all Republicans in voting no, leading House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy to say this after the vote.
In March of this year, Speaker Pelosi said this about impeachment. Impeachment is so divisive to the country that unless there's something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, I don't think we should go down that path because it divides the country. Today, the country just witnessed the only bipartisan vote on that floor was against.
There you go. Now for the 360 view, we turn our political panel on and we say hello to attorney and former Georgia state lawmaker LaDawn Jones and Rebecca Walser, tax attorney and conservative commentator. Welcome, ladies, to you both. Let's start with LaDawn. HR 660, the vote was 232 to 196. As mentioned, 2 Democrats voting against the resolution and no Republicans voting for it. So why isn't Kevin McCarthy correct that Pelosi is being hypocritical based on what she has previously stated about impeachment?
You know, Nancy Pelosi's previous statements indicate that she wanted to have a thoughtful process to make sure that we weren't just using politics. But then Donald Trump came in and did a second time of getting involved, having others get involved in our elections in such an egregious and outward way that they would have been wrong not to move forward. They would not have been living up to what we have elected them to do in Congress. It is not being hypocritical with evidence that is just so strong against Donald Trump that he clearly has not learned his lesson.
All right, so Rebecca, I'm sure Nancy Pelosi would have loved even one Republican defection so she could claim that this was a bipartisan vote. She didn't get it. But again, these hearings that have been taking place in the basement and will continue in the basement, notwithstanding the new regulations for the foreseeable future until they could figure out how to come upstairs. I don't see anything new. I just see same old being talked about every single day. But Pelosi said what she said, and now she's gone back on what she said.
Exactly. And, you know, Steve, this is Russian, you know, want to talk about Russian interference. This is what they do in Russia. You know, this is the lack of due process here. And I understand that people want to say, well, we have no precedent. The Constitution doesn't say anything. That's not true. We have had 3 impeachments before, and all of those people were given due process. Their attorneys were allowed to be present. They were allowed to question witnesses. They were allowed to subpoena their own witnesses. This was a non-politicized process. And when you have to ask yourself, why is it so politicized? Why are the Democrats not allowing witnesses to be questioned by Republicans? Why aren't Republicans being allowed to be in that room? Why aren't the press in that room? And there's a reason. And that's why Senator Graham wrote what he wrote. And that's why Pelosi called this vote that I think is a sham. And still, the rules don't even allow the Republicans to have the process, the due process that they need for this president.
All right, LaDawn, a New York Times poll out yesterday found that in swing states, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida, removing Trump from office is opposed by the majority polled in those states. So how big a risk are these Democrats taking? I mean, 2 of them voted no. One came from a district that for 20 years was Republican before he won in 18. And the other one came from a district in Minnesota where Trump won over Hillary by 38 points. How big a risk are the Democrats taking by proceeding with this and voting the way they did?
I don't believe it's a risk at all. We know that those polls are skewed very much on who you ask, when you ask, and how you ask the questions. As a Democrat, I can tell you we are asking, begging, yelling at our elected officials to do something about this president that's in the White House that is doing such egregious actions. It is not going to negatively affect them at all. But when I was in the state house, they would also always tell us, vote your politics, vote your districts, right? What is going to be important to the constituents you serve. So we understand why 2 Democrats may not have voted for this. The numbers were already on the side of the Democrats. They have to move forward. They would lose our vote, the vote of their supporters, if they did not press forward on this impeachment process.
Rebecca, I think it's the first time, with all due respect to LaDawn, that I've heard that the New York Times polls might be skewed the other way, towards the right.
I think I would agree with you there.
And go ahead, Rebecca.
No, I 100% agree with you, and I think it's not to say anything against LaDawn, but I think it's a little bit naive to say, well, we want this guy impeached. Let's have, if there is really something there wasn't anything there in the Mueller report, there wasn't anything. If there's really something there, why is it under the wraps of secrecy? We have the transcript. There's nothing that there's a intelligence need to keep it down in the basement in secret, and so it needs to be transparent. If this is the bad actor that everybody says he is on that side of it, then let's get it out in the light of day and let's see it and let the American people decide for themselves instead of the leaks that are coming from the mainstream media about what the Democrats want published.
Okay, so ladies, I would be remiss here because I know you're both huge baseball fans. I know you both stayed up very late watching Game 7 of the World Series yesterday. So I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that the Washington Nationals took Game 7 last night in Houston, and for the first time, they are the world champions of baseball. I want you to see some of the celebration that took place here in D.C. last night after that game.
Anytime you have something you can rally around, especially right now, given what's going on in the rest of the world, this is a great distraction.
It's a feeling of oneness. It's us against the world. It's a fantastic feeling, and you can feel it throughout the city.
Of course, we need this. We need this. You know what? With the country so divided, this is something that's just good and something to cheer for.
All right, so based on that, ladies, can we all now just get along? Democrats, Republicans, rallying around the Nationals' victory. Rebecca, you first.
I am everything about America. So I am so pro-America, and I want us to be united, and we have to do that the right way. We can't just decide that we want to undo the 2016 election. So congratulations to the Nationals. It was a great year to win. I think it's great for the country. And let's do this the right way, and let's get our unity back together by not being so politically motivated on every single thing.
LaDawn?
I was born in Houston, so I'm going to be a total traitor because the way that the Nationals crowd booed Donald Trump at the previous game, they get my win. I'm so happy that they won.
So pardon the expression, but politics trumps everything to LaDawn. All right, let me move on. One more topic before we go. And we could all dream, by the way, but back to reality. We could all dream about kumbaya, but the reality is the whistleblower. The whistleblower has been named, or at least the man that Paul Sperry of Real Clear Investigation says is the whistleblower. He's been named, but the attorneys for the whistleblower called that story the pinnacle of irresponsibility, and they refuse to confirm or deny its accuracy. Now, Sperry is talking about a 33-year-old registered Democrat, a holdover from the Obama administration, who previously worked with former VP Joe Biden and former CIA head, now Trump critic, John Brennan. LaDawn, should the whistleblower be identified to the public?
At some point, it's 2019, and so we know the information is going to get out. It's going to have to get out for us to be able to have a fair impeachment process as this moves through the Senate, where all of that due process and all those other portions come through. However, I do agree that it's irresponsible. They're trying to presume who this person was by narrowing down based on age and who was a Democrat and who served in the White House. We just have to be really cautious because we know that there are people out there, many of the Trump supporters, who are just so strongly in his corner that we don't want that this process to be interfered with because someone who may have critical information is put out there too early. I do think it needs to come out, but it needs to come out through the government in the right way at the right time.
Well, Rebecca, I noticed the lawyers didn't say, no, that's not him. According to the article that I read, they wouldn't confirm or deny, which is legalese, in my view, for you might have something there.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer myself, so I noticed that's exactly what I zoned in on on this as well. Steve, the thing is that whistleblower laws are really intended for one specific thing, and let me tell you what they're not intended for. They are not intended to anonymously take down a president of the United States. So to believe in any fantasy land that this person's identity would not come out, I'm completely with LaDawn on this. There's no chance that this guy's identity is not ultimately revealed to the American public.
LaDawn, Rebecca, great conversation. We covered a lot of topics. Thank you both. Appreciate it.